This is Cast of Wonders, the young adult fiction podcast featuring stories of the fantastic. Welcome. I'm your guest host this episode, Aidan Moher. I'm a Hugo Award-winning writer and editor with work appearing on Cast of Wonders, Tor.com, and Kotaku. Today's story is the second and last of our Dinovember episodes for 2020, Velocirapture. The theme for this year is intelligent dinosaurs. That is, dinosaurs that have established an advanced civilization, use amazing technology, and talk. Velocirapture, by Jennifer Lee Rossman, is a Cast of Wonders original, written specifically for our Intelligent Dinosaurs call. Jennifer Lee Rossman is sometimes too preoccupied with whether or not she could make Jurassic Park references, and doesn't stop to think if she should. She is autistic, queer, and disabled, and so are most of her characters. Read more of her work at jenniferleerossman.blogspot.com and join her on Twitter at Jen L. Rossman for terrible jokes, yelling about dinosaurs, and pictures of her snails. The story is narrated by Tatiana Gray. Tatiana Gray is a critically acclaimed actress of stage, screen, and the audio booth. She has been nominated for dozens of fancy awards but hasn't won a single damn thing. She went to NYU and lives in Brooklyn, New York. You can follow her online at tatianagray.com. And now, we've a tale to tell.
Velocirapture by Jennifer Lee Rossman. Narrated by Tatiana Gray. Xeris was going to kill the asteroid. The last of three the Skywatchers insisted would annihilate all dinosaurs on her planet. She had to. There was no other choice. Not if she wanted to finally, officially, until the end of forever, ask Jax to be a bonded pair. And she did want that. Very much so. Even though their species had evolved substantially from the little velociraptors, who didn't even use tools or complex languages, raptor society still hinged on tradition. So the courtship dance was vital. The two of them, committing themselves to each other no matter what their parents thought about two females being mates, the sky erupting in fireworks. All they had to do was dance away the last night of being juveniles. After she saved the day with two inventions. A mechanical pteranodon she would fly, and the Star Rock, a meteor with curious explosive properties that had crashed to Earth long ago. Xeris thought it ironic, how they would fight the flaming space rock with another space rock, and yet poetic. And then her father had to go and ruin everything. First, she thought he worried that she herself would fly a pteranodon instead of a remotely piloted one. But his concern was far more theological than logistical, as he argued whether they should stop the asteroid. "It will be Calatheri all over again," he insisted. "Another Madron." The first flight of drone pteranodons, which had attacked the first asteroid months ago, succeeded in partly destroying it, but its corpse crashed into the island of Calatheri. Thousands of raptor lives vanished in an instant, without preparing for the afterlife. And without their courtship dances, those juvenile raptors would be shorn from their would-be partners forever. Madron had been the second failed mission. The horizon still burned from that disaster. Her father addressed the council. "The third asteroid is unstoppable, bigger than the first two combined, sent from the gods themselves. Would we rather use our final days in a futile fight against their will, or take this time to make peace and guarantee our place in the heavens?" The council agreed. They would savor what time they had, ensure that the juveniles performed the ritual dance, and went to the afterlife in mated pairs. Xeris roared at the elders, most of them long past hunting age, and clicked her dangerously sharp middle talon on the ground. "No! I refuse to go extinct. Her father narrowed his eyes, looking down his long snout. It's not up to us. It's the natural order of things. The gods create dinosaurs. They give sentience to dinosaurs. They kill dinosaurs. Look at the fossils. The same happened to the ancient stegosaur communities and the allosaurs. One way or another, extinction comes for us. The afterlife finds a way. Xeris snarled and regretted it when she saw the murder in her father's eyes. Social hierarchy was a delicate ecosystem. Were she a hatchling rather than a juvenile at the cusp of sexual maturity, he would have eaten her to save himself the trouble of raising such an insolent chick. But not so now. Not with her so close to her first mating season. Not now that she could fight back. And oh, her predatory instincts raged. She needed to fight, to rip something apart. But not her father. Despite all the adversity between them lately, this was the parent who had raised her, who had taught her to hunt, and told her there was no prey too big for her to tackle. Father! Remember when the Tyrannosaur packs united in an unstoppable army? Did we bow to the afterlife then? Her father tilted his reptilian head. Xeris's talons had barely formed back then. She'd thought raptor kind was done for. But he'd commissioned the mechanical pteranodons that ultimately crushed the tyrannosaur hordes. He'd showed her that stubbornness against a larger foe could yield victory. The gods favored those who went down fighting. Where had her hero gone? This is different, Xeris. This time, the sky hunts us. Why did the sky bestow us with the star rock, if not to use against this threat? She hissed at her father's silence, then exited the council chamber. He'd directed the Calatheri and Madrin missions. Guilt had made him overcautious. But she was going to save the world and dance with her mate. Xeris peeked over the metal body before her to see Jax preening herself, ignoring the other pteranodon beside Xeris's. Jax had been born with the longer, more iridescent plumage typical of males and took great care to trim the longest feathers into a more feminine length. So I'm sorry we'll miss the dance, Xeris said, her voice echoing in the cavernous belly of the mechanical pteranodon. It was bigger than the living versions they'd been modeled after. She squinted in the dark, scrambled deeper within until her tail brushed the outside. It seemed all the parts were here, but the technicians stopped assembling when her father and the council had issued their decree. So many wires, so many buttons. Chaos. Wait, why are we missing the dance? Jax asked. I thought you would announce your intention to be my mate then. Yes, Jax, but first we must save the world, Xeris replied, fumbling for the ignition switch. We're going up? Jax screeched. I thought maybe we were sending the machines remotely. Xeris chirped sharply. Over Calatheri and Madrin, the remotely piloted pteranodons couldn't move fast enough. I can't install the signaling devices anyway. I hunt things. I don't invent. You could die. We both could. Xeris had thought of that. Had hardly thought of anything else. Death was the true apex predator, inexorably stalking you, always on your tail. There was absolutely no stopping it from devouring you one day. In this, her father was correct. She just didn't think that final reckoning was coming just yet. Xeris twisted to better reach a component. We'll die anyway if we don't, and I'd rather risk my life trying to save everyone. But I understand if you want to stay grounded. I can take the asteroid myself. The dance is important. Why was Jax so afraid? Her inventor family had pioneered these metal pteranodons. That's how they'd met. Xeris's father had approached Jax's parents to build flying machines against the tyrannosaur hordes. Seeing Jax take off in one was enough to make Xeris volunteer for training. Turned out, she and Jax were the best pilots the newly minted Raptor wing force could muster. They'd become lead bombers, war heroes, in adolescence. "Fly with me, Jax. That pteranodon over there is yours, if you'll have it. Hunting as a pack is better. Xeris, the courtship dance might be our only chance to commit to each other." "I know, but stopping the end of the world seems more important than frivolously dancing the end of my life away." Xeris paused, carefully loading her stolen star rock fragments into the launch tube. It only took a small amount of whatever chemical it contained to create an impressive explosion, and she wouldn't get a second chance. The Madron mission had made that abundantly clear. These asteroids moved faster than anyone had realized. She'd have to get really close. "You're set on doing this, aren't you?" There was an oddly hollow crooning to Jax's question. "I'm afraid so. Hey, do you think I have enough star rock?" No answer. "Jax?" Xeris crawled out, her claws scratching on the metal. Jax was gone. Frivolous. She'd called the dance frivolous. She wanted to smack her head against the flying machine's hull. Compared to the asteroid, the dance was frivolous. But it was obviously still important to Jax. First her father had abandoned her, now her mate. If the asteroid had been scheduled to strike any other day, any other moment, the dance where Xeris officially and in front of everyone asked Jax to be her life mate would have been, should have been, the moment all other moments would be judged against until the end of time. She could go after Jax. She was about to. But she looked up. The first stars had begun to poke through the evening sky, and one of them was coming for her. She had work to finish. The council spared no expense putting on the most extravagant courtship dance the Cretaceous had ever seen, clearing a large swath of land and decorating with exotic flora from the farthest reaches of Gondwanaland. Powerful lamps, crafted to look like jars of fireflies, gave the dance floor a glimmering ambiance. Fruit nectar drinks and hors d'oeuvres made from the finest Triceratops specimens sat opposite a raised platform where the chorus vocalized in harmony. Xeris watched the revelers from the hilltop, pitying them. Their freedom, their faith, their ability to dance carelessly into an adulthood they believed they would never live to see. To them, Xeris was forsaking her one chance at adulthood. If she didn't participate in the ritual, she would enter the afterlife eternally a juvenile, little better than a hatchling. Maybe she didn't want to be an adult, if it meant surrendering so easily. The asteroid grew larger by the moment. She crooned, rubbed her head against the empty flying machine beside hers, her missing wing, her better half, then ducked inside her fuselage. She froze. She had only left to quench her thirst at the river, but that had apparently been long enough. All the star rock fragments, and the firing tube she'd loaded them into, were gone. Xeris stalked onto the dance floor with murder in her eyes, her muscular chest heaving with slow, deep breaths. Not noticing her, young raptors circled their partners, nipping at each other's flanks and fanning the iridescent plumage on their heads and tails. The atmosphere here was different from what she'd seen from the hilltop. The carefreeness of the courting raptors carried a certain desperation. They had to be young and in love and hopeful. Had to, because it was all ending. From down here, Zaris saw that the firefly lamps served a purpose besides romantic illumination. It brightened the area, so that star, growing ever larger in the night sky, couldn't be seen. It made it easier to pretend tonight could last forever.
"Where is my star rock?"
she roared. Dozens of raptors turned to her and hissed. Her father emerged from the crowd. "You stubborn, foolish hatchling!" Zaris screeched.
"Yell at me after I save your life! Where are my star rack fragments?"
It had to be him, or one of his followers. He may have turned soft lately, but he was smart enough to figure out her plan and sabotage her. Her father's lips curled in a sharp-toothed sneer. "Maybe ask your intended mate, the one you said you were going hunting with every time you went behind my back to work on those metal pteranodons. She must still be about. She was here earlier." No, Jax would never. Would she? Zaris had called the dance frivolous, possibly stolen Jack's only chance at becoming an adult before the world ended. Because if she was being honest, Zaris didn't even know if she could kill an asteroid. Would Jax really lure Zaris to the dance by stealing her star rock? In many ways, she was just as obstinate as Zaris was. Raptors of a feather. Zaris's father saw her hesitation, and like any good predator, he pounced. "It never would have worked anyway, daughter. The gods want us to reproduce, even in the afterlife. That's what we're here for. As a pair, you and Jax aren't useful in that regard. Now, there are many eligible young males in need of a partner," Zaris lashed out, striking her father across the face with her foreclaw. How dare he use the end of the world as another excuse to hate her mate? She considered pointing out that while Jax hadn't been born with the capacity to lay eggs, she could, biologically speaking, still produce offspring with Zaris, but doubted that would do much to change his mind.
"Jax isn't useless. She and I had the most kills in the Tyrannosaur War."
He snarled at the pain, but said nothing. It was their way. Hatchlings fighting parents for dominance. "I'm doing this for you, daughter. I want you to have a good afterlife. You can't cross over as a juvenile. You're being foolish, stubborn."
"I am foolish and stubborn," Zaris hissed. "It's because I'm your offspring. I was hunting tyrannosaurs as a juvenile. You taught me to. You are so sure it can't be done that you would let us go extinct rather than try, because you think this is what the gods want? Well, we may go extinct one day if we can't adapt to what they throw at us. But that day is not today, because we have the technology to prevent our own extinction. If Jax..." Zaris snapped her jaws shut. Hadn't her father just said Jax was around? "Where is she? Where's my mate?" "She never stayed," a juvenile said. "She found her parents, they screeched at each other, then they ran away together."
"They what?" Zaris's father went into a frenzy. "And they have Star Rock?" No, not just Star Rock. The firing tube. If Jax wanted to stop Zaris, all she had to do was take the Star Rock. But she'd disassembled the firing tube. And why would Jax come to tear her parents from the festivities? Her inventor parents? She grabbed his talons.
"Father, you don't mean what you say about Jax. Otherwise you wouldn't have let us carry on as we did. Fear clouds your thinking, but we're going to save you. We're going to save all of you. I love you."
Zaris smiled with all her fangs, then ran to the hilltop as he yelled after her. Zaris soared close to Jax's pteranodon, watching the asteroid's light grow ever brighter through tinted glass.
"Jax,"
she transmitted over her communication device. There was a static hiss, then,
"Zaris, what is it? You really had me worried, disappearing on me then stealing my firing tube." "There was no time. First, I had to produce more star rock. Then I wondered if we could also improve the firing mechanism. I needed your firing tube to show my parents, so we could modify our design accordingly. Like you said, you hunt. You don't invent. But we do.
Xeris had returned to the hill to find Jax modifying both pteranodons. Both firing tubes were removed, replaced with launchers. These not only contained the greater star rock yield Jax had gotten, but could fire from farther distance. They actually might survive this.
Target is approaching,
Jax said. Yes, approaching fast, burning furiously through the atmosphere. Yet Xeris knew she would never be able to focus if she didn't set things right with her mate.
I shouldn't have called the dance frivolous. Will you dance with me, now? Here, in the sky?
Jax did a barrel roll.
Of course I will.
The flaming rock tore through the clouds, roaring louder than the tyrannosaurs they once hunted. The attacks at Calatheri and Madron had destroyed its brothers, its harbingers, but now the true predator had come. Xeris and Jax opened fire, ducking and dodging chunks, their live piloting skills letting them evade death. They screeched like warriors, as finally, the last asteroid fragment shattered. It may not have been official in the eyes of the elders, but Xeris and Jax danced together in a night sky that erupted with fireworks and uncountable shooting stars. Finally, officially, until the end of forever, a bonded pair.
I was thrilled when Cast of Wonders assistant editor Andrew K. Ho asked me to guest host this wonderful story by Jennifer, especially when he mentioned my love for the classic Super Nintendo Japanese RPG Chrono Trigger. I've been a huge dinosaur nerd for as long as I can remember, but more than that, I've been in love with the idea of sentient and technologically advanced dinosaurs ever since meeting the reptile ruler Azala in Chrono Trigger. While humans were still in their infancy, Azala led a thriving civilization of intelligent dinosaurs, set to rule the world. Until the interstellar parasite Lavos fell from the heavens and wiped them out. For years, I wondered what could have been. What would a world be like if dinosaurs had survived and become the dominant race? I spent many hours pondering Azala's fate, and whether she really was a bad guy. Sure, she was in opposition to your party, but her goal was to save her entire race from destruction. There was an immense nobility there. Like Azala, Xeris fights tooth and nail to save her people from annihilation. I love the way Jennifer matches anxiety over impending world doom with an irreverent lightheartedness, making her story and creatures feel human, even though they're anything but. Velocirapture reminds us of what it means to fight for our communities, to push back against an establishment that no longer considers the future because they're too obsessed with the present. Existential Crisis provides an opportunity to remember that no matter how different we may look, no matter the color of our skin, the languages we speak, the beliefs we follow, we are all the same inside. Join us again next time. We love bringing you the best audio fiction week after week, but we can't do it without your support. Your donations pay our authors, our narrators, our servers, and our staff. Please consider supporting us with a monthly donation through either PayPal or Patreon. You can also review us on Apple Podcasts, request us on Spotify, and consider the stories we publish for award consideration. There are lots of ways you can help. Join the discussion on the EA Forum, forum.escapeartists.net, or visit on Twitter @Cast of Wonders. Come say hello. Cast of Wonders is a production of Escape Artists Incorporated and is brought to you by editor Catherine Inskip, assistant editors Andrew K. Ho and Carissa Sluss, associate editors Amy Brennan, Alicia Caparasso, William Height Minor, Sean Proctor, Ray O, Susie Rodriguez, Emma Smales, art director Alexis Gopal, community manager Danny Daly, and our audio producer Jeremy Carter. Our episodes are released under the Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. This means you can download or listen to the episode on any device you like, but you can't change it or sell it. Our theme music, Appeal to Heavens, is by Alexei Nov and available from Promo DJ or his Facebook page. Thanks for listening.